Swedish defense firm Saab wants Canada to buy and build its fighter jets. The firm is pitching a partnership with Bombardier and promising to create up to 10,000 jobs along with it.
The company that makes the Gripen has told CTV News that 10,000 manufacturing and research jobs could land in Canada if Ottawa adds the Swedish fighter jet to its military fleet.
In Canada, to do their own upgrades, to build parts of it, to do final assembly and tests, as Saab, we are prepared to do that technology transfer to Canada and support that build-up.
The Pentagon sent a private warning to Ottawa. It was never meant to go public. It told Canada exactly what would happen if it kept moving toward the Swedish-built Gripen fighter jet instead of the F-35. And Canada's response did something Washington did not expect. It didn't back down. It doubled down. What followed has become one of the most consequential defense standoffs between these two countries in decades. And a Swedish aerospace company that just turned a routine procurement review into a geopolitical flashpoint. The decision sits inside Ottawa's Department of National Defense, but its consequences stretch from NORAD Command to NATO defense ministries across Europe. Canada's CF-18 fleet has been flying since the early 1980s. Replacement planning has dragged on for years. In 2023, Canada formally committed to 88 F-35 jets from Lockheed Martin. That deal looked untouchable. Swedish manufacturer Saab placed the JAS-39 Gripen on the table as a direct competitor, not a backup option, a genuine alternative with a detailed proposal, a lower price, and something the F-35 could never offer. Why it matters? Washington assumed the F-35 deal was done. Canada's willingness to seriously reconsider it has exposed a fault line that runs straight through the US-Canada defense relationship. Saab's proposal was not vague. It was specific, structured, and designed to appeal directly to what Ottawa cares about most right now: full technology transfer to Canada. Domestic manufacturing is built into the contract. Roughly 12,600 jobs were created across Canada's aerospace sector, and a price tag that came in significantly below the F-35 on both acquisition and life cycle costs. But the detail that changed the conversation was not the price. It was control. Under the Gripen deal, Canada would own the aircraft software outright. It would control the mission data. It would manage its own maintenance systems without routing decisions through a foreign government or a foreign contractor. If Canada wanted to upgrade the sensors, integrate a new weapons system, or modify the aircraft's mission computers, it could do that on its own timeline, with its own engineers, without asking anyone for permission. That is not a small thing. For a country that is currently renegotiating almost every dimension of its relationship with the United States, that kind of autonomy carries serious weight. To understand why Washington reacted the way it did, you have to understand what the F-35 actually is. It is not just a fighter jet, it is an ecosystem. When a country buys the F-35, it buys into a network. Logistics, software updates, mission planning tools, spare parts, and key maintenance functions all run through infrastructure managed by Lockheed Martin and the Pentagon. The system that tracks engine performance, weapons inventory, and operational data in real time flows back to networks that the United States oversees. Participating nations get access to some of the most advanced military technology on the planet. But they accept a level of dependency that becomes built into how their entire air force operates. Over time, that dependency is not easy to unwind. The Gripen works on a completely different model. Saab designed it so the operating nation stays in control. The source code is accessible. The mission computers can be programmed domestically. Weapons integration does not require approval from Stockholm. Canada could look at its own Gripen fleet and say with certainty that every decision, every upgrade, every line of code belongs to Ottawa. When Canadian officials started saying that out loud, the temperature in Washington changed fast. Pentagon sources, speaking on condition of anonymity, told Canadian defense counterparts that moving away from the F-35 would create what they described as interoperability gaps inside NORAD and NATO operations. The language was technical. The message was not subtle. If Canada chose a different aircraft, North American airspace defense would have to be restructured. American patrols might increase. Intelligence sharing arrangements could be reviewed. US Ambassador Pete Hoekstra reinforced it publicly. He said Canada's planned fleet of 88 F-35s was a key pillar of continental defense planning and that any change would require the United States to reassess its own posture. That landed right in the middle of a serious financial problem. Over the past 3 years, the projected cost of Canada's F-35 acquisition had climbed by roughly $8 billion. Prime Minister Mark Carney, who built his reputation on fiscal discipline during his years leading the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, was not going to approve that kind of cost increase without hard questions. Those questions led to a formal reassessment. And when reporters asked about it, Canadian officials did not hedge. Defence Minister Blair told reporters directly that Canada would make its procurement decision based on what serves Canadian interests. He did not attack the United States. He did not criticize the F-35 program. He simply made clear that Ottawa was not going to be told what to buy. That is the response that reportedly stunned Washington. Not because the words were confrontational. They were not. But because the posture behind them was firm in a way American officials did not anticipate. Canada was not playing along with the assumption that the deal was already settled. For a government that had grown accustomed to Canada nodding along on defense matters, that kind of quiet firmness was something different, and it forced a recalculation on the American side that is still ongoing. There is a reason the Gripen is not just a political choice for Canada. It is an operational one. Canada is responsible for defending nearly 10 million square kilometers of territory. A significant portion of that sits in the Arctic, where temperatures drop below -40, runways are scarce, and the nearest supply depot can be 800 kilometers away. The Gripen was built for exactly that environment. During the Cold War, Sweden designed it around the idea that if your main air bases get destroyed, you keep flying anyway. The aircraft can take off and land on straight stretches of highway. A crew of 6 can refuel and ram it in under 10 minutes using a truck and a portable kit. That is not marketing. That is how the Swedish Air Force actually operates. The F-35 requires climate-controlled hangars for its stealth coatings. Its logistics depend on centralized connected networks. Its support footprint is large by design. In Europe or the Pacific, that is fine. In Nunavut, it is a problem. And beyond Canada, the stakes are even larger. 14 nations currently operate or have committed to the F-35. If Canada, a founding NATO member and America's closest defense partner, demonstrates that you can choose differently and still stay in the alliance, Denmark, Norway, and Belgium start asking the same questions. That is what the Pentagon is actually afraid of. Here is where things stand. The F-35 gives Canada the most advanced stealth, sensor fusion, and networked warfare capability available anywhere in the world. Walking away from that is walking away from a real technological edge. The Gripen gives Canada something the F-35 never will. Complete ownership. Every line of code, every upgrade decision, every maintenance call, belonging entirely to Ottawa. Pentagon officials understand that argument. They just do not want it to win. The warning has been sent. Canada's answer is on the record, and defense ministries from Oslo to Canberra are watching closely. So here is the question for you. If you were sitting in Ottawa right now, which way do you go? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you want to follow this story as it develops, subscribe and turn on the bell.